Hi, everybody. So, today's movie review is definitely a blast from my past. It's a movie I saw once in probably 1992 or 1993. It was released in 1991. It stars, of all people, Don Johnson and Mickey Rourke. Just a moment. Cleaning a bit of schmutz off my tablet. Some of you will already have figured out the movie. Some of you may have paused and gone, well, he's not going to tell us what the movie is yet. I need to go and find out what it's called. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the name of the movie is just yet. But as my old man told me before he left this shitty world, sometimes you have to wait for the good things in life. And Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man is kind of one of those interesting things. So it's ironic that I'm smoking while I talk about this, because that tends to be, it's something of a running gag, prop kind of element of the story. And of course, one of the names of the main characters is the Marlboro Man, who doesn't smoke, which I thought was hilarious when I first saw this movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a bad movie. It's got some continuity and editing errors, some really blatant storyline errors, or storytelling errors, I guess, to be fair. But the thing I really took away from it is that this is a story definitely for men. This is an 80s movie. Understand that. It's an 80s movie that was made very early in the 90s. It is not a 90s movie. It's very much in the mold of something similar to, say, Lethal Weapon, or it combines elements, I would say, from Lethal Weapon and Death Wish, in that there is a buddy narrative. There's a very strong revenge theme through this. There's some gun porn for those of you who are, like me, into the gun tubers. There's some excessive use of the Steyr AUG. Quite a bit of humor relating to guns. Quite a lot of action relating to guns. In some ways, this is almost a prototypical John Wick movie. This is a movie that has some of the biggest names of the time and some of the bigger names of now. Some of the more prominent names from now. Those of you who've watched The Mandalorian will know the name Giancarlo Esposito. Those of you who watched Breaking Bad will also know that. Now, personally, I haven't seen that show. Yes, I know. It's horrible of me that I haven't. And I do intend to rectify that at some point. But not yet. Well, I'll give you some of the names that are in this that you might know. Mickey Rourke, Don Johnson. Now, if you don't know who Don Johnson is, I understand. That's a name from very much the 80s and 90s. If you don't know who Mickey Rourke is, go watch The Fucking Wrestler. Seriously, stop what you're doing, pause this video, put it on watch later, throw me a like and a subscribe and a share, please. But go and watch The Wrestler. Because if you haven't seen that, you don't know who Mickey Rourke is. And when you're done watching that, just to see what it looks like when a good actor gets ripped off on a part that they should have been able to sink their teeth into, go watch Iron Man 2. Now, all that said, other names you might know are Tia Carrere, or Tia Carrera. I never was clear on how that was pronounced. Kelly Hu, Daniel Baldwin, who plays an absolute ass in this movie. Does actually a very good piece as the kind of henchman villain. And Tom Sizemore, who actually plays a character that you would not expect Tom Sizemore to play, if you're familiar with his later stuff. Who else was in this? Oh, a real blast from my past. Big John Studd features prominently in the early part of the film. There are extremely good cameos from people who really aren't known and deserve to be. Probably deserve to be better known than they ever were. There's definitely lots for the guys in this movie. This is a guy's movie. But if you take your date to see it, she's not going to be disappointed, I don't think. This is definitely one of those... actually, a good way to describe this movie is bromance. It's actually a very good way to describe this movie. And it's a term I generally don't like, but I would call it a bromance. You have two very different characters. Harley Davidson, who is, I guess, a biker. Not your stereotypical biker, but probably closer to the actuality of biker than most stereotypes would lead you to believe. He's definitely high cool factor. This whole movie is high cool factor. A lot of the stuff that happens is for the cool factor. Some of it is obviously unbelievable. To be fair, they did set this film in 1996 while making it in late 80s, probably 91, 90-ish. So it is a bit of sci-fi. Just a touch of sci-fi to it, which works out, and that's fine. There's a little bit of the... believe it or not, there is a very minor bit of woke in the very earliest part of the film. There is a section where you would say, okay, looking at it from a modern lens, that's kind of diversity, feminism, intersectionality put in there, but it does work. And it does not come off in a negative way. The ways that they show characterization, the way characterization is handled in this movie is very, very good. You get drips and drabs in different spots, but they come almost naturally in the dialogue. There is one slightly clunky spot where you get a little bit of the Marlboro Man's backstory, which kind of strikes you as pushed in, not quite fit cleanly into the dialogue, but it does work. There's quite a lot of things that happen in this movie where you will go, huh? How? What? And if you look at it with too much of a critical eye, you're going to have a bad time. That said, it does have a reasonably good score on IMDb, 6.1 out of 10. It's got a 25% rating on Rotten Tomatoes with 20 scores. I didn't look to see if those were critics or fans. What else would I say about this movie? Definitely recommend. I definitely recommend it. If you're a fan of films like Fast and the Furious, or John Wick, and you find those too over the top, you will enjoy this film. It does have segments that are over the top, but even those segments, you're willing to forgive them for the cool factor that comes with them. In fact, one of the lines in the film is, "It's better to be dead and cool than be alive and uncool." Which, okay, that's very much an 80s, 90s bridge kind of sentiment in film. Uh, what else would I say? There is a significant amount of romance in this. So, as I said, your date will not be disappointed. Without giving any spoilers away, Tom Sizemore is the big bad in this. And it's really a part that, while the dialogue he gets is a little cheesy, and, you know, it's really an 80s action flick. The dialogue was always cheesy. It's not like Rambo spouted any big philosophical treatises in any of the films, possibly with the exception of First Blood. Let's see. There are beautiful women, shown as women, and in at least a couple of cases shown as beauties. There is some nudity, so I will give you the heads up on that. There's quite a bit of gunplay. There is some gore related to the gunplay. The heroes don't come out of it unscathed. But I think when you see the ending, while they did sort of allow space for a sequel just in case, there's really no need of it. And this is one of the things I love about well-made films, that they will wrap up their stories. Excuse me. They wrap up their stories in very, very nice ways. It does leave a little room for a potential sequel, although I suspect that the film did not do terribly well in the box office. My thinking, as I recall, is that this was not a big hit movie. If I recall correctly, I saw this on VHS when it was released. And it may have been several years later than even I think. It may have been 95 or 96 before I saw it. But there's if you're a biker guy, if you're a bike guy, you're going to enjoy this movie. There's there's a wonderful scene at the very beginning where without spoiling it, if you're a Harley guy, you will see a Kawasaki be destroyed, and you will go, I'm okay with this. If you're not a biker guy at all, you will see a bike being destroyed for the sake of a joke, and also, you will enjoy it. There's a couple of things that are very anachronistic now, and you're going to look at the film and go, wait, people don't do that anymore. Or there's no way he would have possibly gotten away with that. For example, the aforementioned Kawasaki being destroyed happened in public using a firearm. And yeah, in the real world, that shit doesn't happen without some sort of repercussion. There is a little bit of stunt riding on the bikes. The stunt guys in this, absolutely great. What else? There are a couple of different shootout scenes, which are very good. If you're a fan of Airwolf, You will probably recognize Chelsea Field, who is as close to the female lead as any of the characters get. And you'll also recognize a helicopter that features very prominently in one of the later confrontation scenes. Let me see, what else? All in all, and I'll just give you my final thoughts on this, it's a very slick movie. It's very well paced. It's definitely got some strong, very strong themes of masculinity, what it means to be a man. All of it without, as far as I can recall, ever once using the phrase, if you want to be a man, you have to. There's none of that. There's no preachiness to it, which is something that's actually really good as well. If you ask me for a rating out of 10, I'm going to give it, if I were putting an out of 10 rating on it, I would probably go 6.5, 7. Some of the writing, as I said, is a bit cheesy. There are a few minor continuity errors. There's a little bit of storytelling logic that makes you go, what? No, why? Why would you do this? This makes no sense, except to further the plot. Which, we, as writers, you do things to further the plot sometimes. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're obvious and clunky. But also sometimes you don't care. And for this movie will give you the urge to be a bit forgiving. But the very end, there's a bit of redemption, and there's a very strong rightness. The ending is fitting to the show, to the film, especially if you pay attention in the early part of the movie. Pay attention to the dialogue, the behavior of the various characters. But all in all, if you ask me for my thoughts, my very quick thoughts about Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, it's a good movie. And I would recommend you watch it. My biggest criticism? Is probably that they don't make movies like that anymore. Yeah, that's probably my biggest criticism. So anyway, guys, I hope you're having a good Monday. I hope you continue to have good days, and rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.